Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Benny Fluman, here with Brian Newman and Daniel Weiss. And Daniel Weiss, I want you to picture a founder. Let's say the CEO of an early-stage B2B SaaS company. They spend about 2 hours a week on LinkedIn, posting randomly, scrolling, leaving a great post comment here and there. 2 hours a week. That is roughly 100 hours a year.
Okay, 100 hours a year. If we're talking about a CEO whose time is worth, conservatively, $200 or $300 an hour, you're talking about a $20,000 to $30,000 annual investment, just in scrolling and dropping thumbs up emojis. That is what I call executive time leakage.
And from the SDR side, that $30,000 investment buys us absolutely nothing. A founder posts 3 times in 1 week, disappears for a month, comes back with a generic quote about leadership, and then tells me, Brian, LinkedIn doesn't generate pipeline.
Exactly. Because they are playing the influencer game, not the GTM game. Influencer culture is a trap for B2B executives. The goal of a B2B CEO is not to get 5,000 likes from college students and consultants. The goal is to act as the ultimate trust asset for the 500 people who can actually buy their software.
Wait, trust asset. Define that. Because most founders think the logo is the trust asset. They think the case study is the trust asset.
In small to mid-sized B2B companies, the buyer doesn't trust your logo yet. You aren't Salesforce or Microsoft. The buyer wants to know if the leadership actually understands their daily operational nightmare. When a founder posts a highly specific breakdown of a supply chain bottleneck, the buyer thinks, okay, this person gets it. The founder is the trust asset. The company is just the vehicle.
And that makes the outbound so much easier. If the founder posts about that supply chain bottleneck, and an hour later my SDR reaches out to a VP of supply chain who liked the post, the SDR isn't a cold caller anymore. They are following up on a shared viewpoint.
I agree with the theory, but operationalizing this is where companies break. You're telling me a founder needs to sit down, stare at a blank screen, and write about supply chain bottlenecks every week. They don't have the time, and frankly, most of them are terrible writers.
No, that's the biggest misconception. The founder doesn't run the system. The founder provides the fuel for the system. The founder should never stare at a blank screen. That brings us to the 80-20 routine.
Let's get into the mechanics of this. You've talked about a 60-minute weekly workflow for founders. How does a founder go from a blank screen to high-tension content in under an hour?
We start with 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes of a voice note. The founder pulls out their phone right after a sales call that went sideways, or a customer onboarding that had friction. They record themselves talking about the exact objection the buyer had.
Give me an example. What does that 10-minute voice note actually sound like?
It sounds like this. I just got off a call with a manufacturing prospect in Germany. They refuse to move forward because they think our implementation will take 6 months. I tried to tell them it takes 3 weeks, but they've been burned by legacy ERPs before. They are literally choosing a slower, manual process because they're terrified of software downtime. That's the voice note. Raw, unedited, frustrated.
Oh, I love that. Because if a marketing person tries to write about implementation, it sounds like, our software deploys fast. But the founder's voice note gives you the actual tension. Companies are choosing manual labor because they are terrified of ERP downtime. That is a hook.
Exactly. Then the marketing person, or even an AI tool if it's a really small team, takes that voice note and structures it into a post. The founder spends their next 10 minutes reviewing and sharpening that draft. They aren't writing, they're editing.
Okay, so that's 20 minutes used, 10 on the voice note, 10 on the review. What are the other 40 minutes?
15 minutes on ICP engagement, meaning the founder goes to the profiles of 10 specific target accounts and leaves a meaningful comment. 10 minutes reviewing signals. Who viewed my profile this week? And the final 15 minutes aligning with sales on who gets follow-up. 60 minutes total.
And that 15 minutes of alignment is where the magic happens. Because if the founder just posts and walks away, the SDR has no idea what to do with the 40 people who engaged. The founder needs to say, Brian, these 3 people are target buyers. Add them to the Q3 outbound sequence.
This solves the resource problem too. If a small company doesn't have a massive marketing department, they don't need one. They just need the founder's 10-minute voice note, a structured review process, and an SDR to act on the signals. It's a closed loop. So let's map this out over time. Because you can't just flip a switch and have a fully functioning GTM LinkedIn engine. Benny, you frame this as a 6-month build. What happens in month 1?
Month 1 is purely about fixing the profile headline and the positioning. Most founders have a headline that says, CEO at Tech Corp. That is useless. It needs to explain the business problem. Helping mid-market manufacturers cut ERP implementation time from 6 months to 3 weeks. 5 seconds and the buyer knows exactly what you do.
Helping mid-market manufacturers cut ERP implementation time. That is literally a cold call script right there. It aligns perfectly with outbound. What happens in month 3?
Month 3 is building the engagement map. This is critical. The founder stops scrolling their home feed randomly. Instead, we identify 50 specific people, target buyers, industry analysts, and key partners. The founder only engages with those 50 people. It's targeted strikes, not spray and pray.
Wait, 50 specific people. How are you tracking that? Because LinkedIn's native feed algorithm won't just show you those 50 people reliably.
You bookmark their recent activity pages in your browser. You don't rely on the feed. You go straight to the target's activity, see what they posted, and leave a substantive comment.
That's brilliant. Bypassing the algorithm entirely to force engagement with the exact ICP.
By month 5, you integrate AI classification. This is where you use AI to scrape the people commenting on the founder's posts and automatically tag them. ICP, partner, competitor, non-relevant. Because if you get 100 comments, the SDR shouldn't waste time on the 80 college students. They only need the 20 ICPs.
And month 6 is where I finally get my ROI data. Because of month 6, I don't want to see follower growth. I want to see how many of those 20 ICP comments translated into meetings booked. I want to see pipeline influenced. If the founder spent 24 hours over 6 months on this, did we generate $240,000 in pipeline? That's the board-level conversation.
And that brings us to the actual handoff, because this is where 90% of companies fail. The founder posts a great piece of content, a VP of operations likes it, and then the SDR sends the worst possible message.
Give me the terrible message, Brian. What are they sending?
They send. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for liking our CEO's post. Would love to connect and show you a demo of our platform. Do you have 15 minutes next Tuesday?
It burns pipeline instantly. It takes a warm signal and turns it into a spam transaction.
Exactly, because thanks for liking the post isn't a conversation starter. The VP liked the post because of the tension in the content, not because they want a demo. A strong follow-up message looks like this. Sarah, noticed you liked Benny's post about the friction in 6-month ERP rollouts. We are hearing from a lot of VPs that data migration is the biggest bottleneck. Is that something your team is fighting right now?
Is data migration the biggest bottleneck? That is hyper-specific. You aren't asking for 15 minutes. You are asking them to validate a business pain that they already signaled they care about.
And that is the entire premise of the 80-20 playbook. LinkedIn is not a marketing experiment. It is a structural GTM asset. The founder's raw insight creates the tension. The SDR uses that tension to start a relevant conversation. The CRM tracks the conversion.
It stops being social media. It becomes a revenue infrastructure.
Exactly. So the question for founders is not, how do I become an influencer? The question is, how do I use 60 minutes a week to feed my sales team with high-quality signals? If you want to build this kind of GTM system, reach out to us at Match B2B. I'm Benny Fluman. This has been Match B2B Insights. We'll see you in the next episode where we dive deep into the KPIs that actually matter.